Good.
When?
Let me know when we can get started, pretty please. Okay, thank you. Well, thanks everyone for being here. We'd like to get started. I'm going to chair the meeting. Bobby is, I think, running a little bit late. So I'd like to call the meeting, HCISD Transforming Teaching and Learning Committee to order. We do have a quorum. There will be no action items today, but we do have very exciting items to discuss today. And we'll start with our first item on the agenda, which is the Holsworth Talent Identification Design Team progress. And I'll ask Mr. Shane Strubart to present the item.
Thank you, Dr. Pettis, trustees, Dr. Noyola, administration, audience. We are now in our third year of work with Holsworth. And as you know, thanks to the work of many of our HCISD staff, can y'all hear me okay? Hello? Is this thing on? As you know, thanks to the work of many people and leaders in leadership is now defined in HCISD, as you can see here. This now drives all of our work, and the work of the talent identification design team is the work that they're doing today is grounded on our ACISD leadership definition. Now I want to take us back to ACISD's strategic plan, and specifically goal number 2, which states, we will attract, develop, retain highly effective educators and provide the tools they need to maximize all students' success. With that goal in mind, we are creating a framework to identify talent at all levels of the organization. However, our immediate goal is to identify high potential assistant principals that are ready for the role of principal. We have 43 assistant principals in ACISD that are doing incredible work at their campuses. However, historically, as we lose principals, sometimes in the middle of the year, we typically average a 1-to-1 replacement ratio. The goal of this design team is to change that ratio to a 3-to-1 ratio. The work of the talent identification design team, being led by Principal from Bonham Elementary, Minnie Ramírez, is to address that 1-to-1 ratio, and she's about to explain that to you right now.
All right. Thank you, Shane. And as Shane mentioned, our design team's goal is to create a bench of ready leaders. And so, as we began our work, we decided, well, where better to start than what we already had in place at our district. So our district has created a principal profile. And this principal profile identifies the skill sets that we deem most important for our principals to possess in order to be effective campus leaders. So, if we want to build a bench of ready principals, then we need to ensure that our APs are aware of these skill sets, and our team has been charged to create a framework in which our assistant principals will be able to identify where they currently are with these skill sets, be able to identify areas of growth, and then be able to create a plan on how they will continue to grow in these areas. So, next slide has what will the process look like? What will this look like in action? So our APs will be utilizing the framework to conduct a self-assessment first. They will be able to reflect on where they are in each of the different competencies that we decide on as a framework, and as well as the skill sets from the principal profile. So, for example, if I was an AP filling out my own self-assessment, I would be able to reflect on how I am doing in areas such as being a strategic thinker and an effective communicator. And our framework will guide them in this process. The next step will be for the principals or supervisors of these assistant principals to also assess their assistant principals using this framework. From there, the assistant principal and principal will meet to calibrate and reflect on both of their assessments. Our goal is that from that discussion, a plan will be created for growth opportunities. Assistant principals will then be able to participate in talent development opportunities that our district and our campuses will have available to them. So what are our next steps as a design team? As a design team, we will continue to finalize our framework. Our hope is to have a soft launch in the spring with a few assistant principals and principals. And then in the fall of next year, we would like to do a responsible rollout to all APs and principals. This design team has done some great work, and we're very excited about the opportunities that this framework will bring in being able to really look at our assistant principals and the talent that we have out there and really be able to tap them on the shoulder and remind them that they are ready. They're ready. And so we want to make sure to continue that work. And I want to thank our design team members. I don't know if any of them are here, but if they are, I'd like for them to stand to be recognized because we've done some great work and we continue to work together. So part of our design team is Virginia Armstrong. We also have Tracy Hitchcock, Paola Gonzalez, Noelia Garza, Catherine Johnson, and Elizabeth Mento Bauer. So these are, we looked as we created this design team to make sure we had representation from all different levels of leadership. And so we're really excited about the work that we're doing. That concludes our presentation that we have for you today. But if you have any questions for us, we would be happy to answer them at this time.
You want to add anything, Shane?
No, sir. That is our presentation. I know we've got some UTRGV folks here, so we paved the way for them. But we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
No, we've got plenty of time.
Sure.
And so that's we've got lots of questions. No, I'm kidding. So
I also want to thank Kayan, if you see Kayan McCreath up there, she's actually watching live from Holdsworth. Also, Keisha Desjarnet is also watching live. They have been instrumental in guiding us in this work. Holdsworth they are our assigned leads from Holdsworth on this work right here.
So they're auditing this course, or
Yes, they are. They are auditing. They're making sure that if we kept it short so we wouldn't see anything that wasn't designed.
Well, I've got some questions, but I'll defer to
Sure.
my other board members to see if any questions, because this is a very, very important topic, and I appreciate your presentation. Board members, any questions? Dr. Reiniger.
I agree. This really is very exciting, and thank you for the work, and thank you to the design team and our colleagues at Holdsworth for the amount of effort to do this, because it isn't an easy process, and this really is an important and heavy lift. You know, one of the things that I'm very excited about is the fact that you have such a specific target measure. You know, you're going to know what your success is when you can get to a 3-to-1 ratio, and I like that you've got that type of measure in place, so that's really exciting. I guess my question might be, and really it's just more for you to elaborate a little bit on it, the APs that we have in place, could you say a little bit more about how they may choose to get into the process? I think at some point we said it would be an option for them. But anyway, a little bit more about that. And then I guess the other thing, just as a comment, is that I love that this is really going to push the whole system, because as soon as you're moving APs and you're moving instructional coaches, and you know, you create this momentum about progress and change and understanding of leadership and how you get there, and so you know, the implications are huge. So I'm really excited about that.
Certainly. So the assessment tool will actually be used by all 43 of our assistant principals. So every single assistant principal sitting in that seat today will take that self-assessment. Every principal will also assess them. And there's quite a few assistant principals that do aspire to be principals. And so with that tool, they can start looking at a trajectory and seeing areas that they need to focus on. And what Cortana is doing with her team is designing opportunities for them to grow in each one of those competencies that we're working on. And so all the competencies and the metrics and the rubric that we're working on now is not finalized. That's what we're going to finalize in the spring. That's what her team is doing right now. They're actually taking a deep dive into each one of those competencies. They're actually putting measures on each one of those competencies, saying, this is what it looks like whenever my AP is doing this. And so give them a 5 if they're doing this. Give them a 1 if they're doing this. And so it's actually a very strategic, in-depth tool that they're using. So yeah, so with that work, the principals that do identify, I do want to be a principal, then at least they know what we expect as a principal. So now they know what to work on, and then they declare. And when they declare, then they will apply, and then Cortan will pick up. That's some of the other work that the other design teams are working on. Is then what? And so whenever, and that's the part that Cortan and the others are working on, is to pick them up and put them into a different program to start growing them into principals. And going back to what you said about the replacement of principals, historically we lose about 3 principals a year, and that's about our average. So you think about that. We've only got about 3 people that are ready to sit in those positions. And so I am super excited for the day that when we can say we've got 15 APs that are ready to sit in those positions. And so we're really excited. So thank you for that question.
Ms. Fleury, please go ahead.
For many years, we have claimed to be superior in HCISD, that we really feel that we are accomplishing things that are unusual and that are ahead of the game. And so in taking that great pride, we often feel that hiring from within is the superior path to take. And actually, historically, sometimes that's worked very well, and sometimes that's not necessarily worked very well. And so I love the intentionality of this, because what we are doing is in fact preparing those who are among us to be at the very top of their game. And so I want to thank the district for moving in this direction. I want to thank Holdsworth for helping facilitate this, but particularly want to thank our design committee and you, Shane, for leading us, and Veronica, all of the work that you're going to be feeding into preparing these people. This, I think, is extraordinary. I mean, I really believe this is district-changing work that you're doing. And Dr. Noyola, truly thank you for the detail and the specifics that are going into this plan. I mean, this is going to get us to where we'd like to say that we were in the past, that we now can take great pride in the fact that we will, in fact, be able to know the ability and the talent that is sitting among us. So thank you very much.
Well said. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, if I may add, so when we talk about intentionality, we've had a lot of conversation about the intentionality with our students and how we are better preparing our students and being very focused on individualization. The self-assessment, which is really that starting point of assessing where are our assistant principals, and that calibrating piece really allowing us to zone into what are the individual needs of every assistant principal, because we know that they're, with 43 principals, they are all, or assistant principals, they're at different places. And so the intentionality behind identifying what is that skill set that needs to be developed in each of our assistant principals, really to get them to that profile that Ms. Ramirez spoke about earlier, is very much in alignment with the work that we're doing with everybody across our district, and really growing each person as an individual so that we reach that point where everybody has had their area of development developed. And now we can get to that point where we have 3, 4, 5 individuals that truly are ready. And so I want to commend the design team on their intentionality in the work that they are doing, very focused on each individual person across our district. That's what we're doing with our principals. In looking at that principal profile, that's what we're doing with our assistant principals. And it really has laid that foundation on how will we develop people across our district. So, Ms. Ramirez, Shane, thank you so much for all of your work in this program in particular.
So we've got some extra time here, and I also want to know, Dr. Muniz is on the, I guess he's on the,
Yeah.
he's listening, so he's on the call here. So a couple of questions. When you go through the skill sets that you were going through, could you help me understand? I know you mentioned the 3 starred competencies are non-negotiables: the the trusting relationships, strategic thinking, and effective communication, right? Can you help me understand how you're going to balance that with the others? Because, I mean, collaboration is also very important. So is, coaching and delegation and, of course, being results driven. So can you help reassure us that those things are also going to be, not ignored by anybody? And again, I just kind of want to understand how it's going to be all balanced out.
We definitely started with these in mind, and I'm really proud of the fact that we had leadership at all different levels. So we have some instructional coaches, some principals, some assistant principals, and all different levels. We even have some at the district level, because we really wanted to hear the voice of all of of everyone to really talk about what are those important, and this was just a starting point. It does not mean that we're only specifically using these. We are actually looking at some other ones. And I know one of the big ones that has really come up, especially with our APs, is instructional leadership. Like, how are we really building them in instructional leadership, right? And so that's not necessarily one of the competencies that's on here, but we definitely focused on these, and then we're going to be really specific about. So these are more of the skill sets, and then we're going to be really specific about like descriptors, and so a lot of those, and we had some real deep conversations like, well, where does this one fit? Because being data driven, like that's super important, right? But it's important in different areas. It could be you may need data to be a great communicator, right? Before I start communicating, I need that data. But before I also need it to be a strategic thinker. So some of them fall into different places, and so and that's why we quite haven't finished our framework, because we're really vetting out like where do they best belong, and what's the best ones to really, really look at. And so I think having that lens from all different levels has really been beneficial for our team, because it really has pushed us to think, some of us are thinking one way, and it's like, wait a minute, well, what about this, and where does this fall? So these are not the end all be all. This is just our starting point, and we're going to have some of those other competencies that we know are super critical to it fall under some of those.
Well, I'm guessing you're going to find that it's going to make all your principles so much better, because there's this intentionality on sort of best practices of leadership, and not only coaching individuals and helping them coach individuals, but helping them coach individuals to play on a team, right, and collaborate and work together towards, obviously affecting what happens in every classroom. But so I think that's going to happen. The last question I have is, can you help me understand sort of, so we're helping identify a 3-to-1 ratio of ready assistant principals that can kind of step in, because as you mentioned, we're on average losing about 3 a year. What are we doing to go further back and back map it to identify the principal, the teachers, the counselors, any other folks that, again, that can then become, because, there's a leadership capacity at every level, and we've always got to go back, look further, and figure out who are those leaders there, those gems, even if they're only in their third year of teaching. That doesn't matter. Like, can we just start to develop them earlier, and are we doing that as well? I'm just curious.
So when we first started, when we first started as a design team, of course, it is right identification of talent, right? It didn't specifically say who are we identifying and for what talent, but we went with immediately. This was our first step, was to start with our APs because of the data that we had as far as how many APs were ready. But the first question before we even started out of everyone was, hey, this is, or I guess more of a comment was, this is great to identify, who's ready for an instructional coach, right? But it's also awesome for our, those that are paraprofessionals that might be ready, we can push to become teachers, right? And so we had that conversation. Nobody told us to have that conversation, but we had that conversation because we were like, oh my God, this process would be great to start developing all of those others. And they said, exactly. That's why we're the talent identification. Right now, the immediate one is let's start with this, and then how can we then build that out to other areas.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing so much. This is critically important to do, and it's going to impact student outcomes in so many levels. And unfortunately, we are going to lose some when people find out. Now, of course, we've had these folks sign a non-disclosure agreement, so they can't tell anybody. But unfortunately, when folks figure out what we're doing with our APs here, they're going to be ripe for principalship anywhere, right? And so that's going to happen. And I think we're already seeing folks, coming after our amazingly talented people. So that's a good thing. That's fine. But that's why you continue to work it and work your bench and work the pipeline of leadership and that kind of stuff. So I want to applaud you all in the design team for excellent work, and thanks to Holdsworth for their inspiration, for their heavy lifting, and for guiding the work along the way. So this is amazing. So, and I no doubt a lot of this came from the leadership definition, straight from that. So thank you, Dr. Noyola. Any other comments from the board? Awesome. Thank you all very much for that. And with that, we'll move into our next item on the agenda, redefining the HSHP experience with UTRGV. And I'll call on Miss Veronica Corten. And we have some special visitors in the audience. Dr. Bailey, thank you for being here. Jana, thank you for being here. Dr. Fish.
So, Madam President, Dr. Freitas, and Son, can you hear me all right? Take my mask off. Better? Perfect. Madam President, Committee President, board members, Dr. Noyola, audience. Really excited to be able to be here this evening, and yes, indeed, we have our beloved UTRGV partners here with us today. So it's always a great day when UTRGV is in the house. Seems like just yesterday we sat here, we sat in a commons area just like this at our new collegiate high, and what an extraordinary event that was. And so I want to take us back, before we jump into the full presentation, I do want to take us back about a decade ago. We're all getting a little older, right? But about a decade or so ago, we sat in a committee meeting much like this one, and we brought this concept forward, and we said, wouldn't it be great with the landscape of what the medical community looks like? Wouldn't it be phenomenal if we could create an opportunity for students at the high school level, if they're interested in a medical profession, wouldn't it be great if we could create a campus that would be solely focused on that? And so some of you are saying yes because we were all in the room together. And so here we are, about a decade later, our 8th year into the Harlingen School of Health Professions. And I would be remiss if I didn't start off by saying what a wonderful 8 years it has been with our principal, our founding principal, Mrs. Tina Garza, who is hosting us this evening. So as we spoke about bringing this entire concept to Harlingen, our medical community jumped on board, and what a journey it has been. And so here we are. I pushed that wrong. Let's see. Here we go. So here we are to talk a little bit about the redefined experience at Harlingen School of Health Professions. Many, many accolades for this campus. And it would take me too long to mention all of them, but I'll talk a little bit about the most recent one, which is they were recognized by U.S. News as one of the top schools. And so you think about that accolade, that is not our first time having that accolade. That has been years along the way. But we all know that the enemy of great is good. And so when we talk about redefining the experience, it's really about starting where we are today and rethinking some of the things that we're doing. Really, really proud of Mrs. Garza and her entire team. What we are doing here is that we know that to truly redefine the experience, it starts with all of these wonderful ladies and gentlemen that are sitting in the audience, our School of Health faculty and staff. We can certainly give them a huge round of applause. They sit there quietly, and as we come into their classrooms, they just keep on moving students every day. But as we looked at redefining the experience, we wanted to also start from the inside out. And so what we're doing here is, number one, we captured the student voice. And so working in conjunction with Dr. Mickle, he was able to conduct a student focus group for us. They had great things to say about their experience here at School of Health Professions. The other thing that we talked to our faculty and Dr. Mickle about is if we're truly going to redefine the experience, it has to start with curriculum and instruction. And so beginning in the spring, we've already worked on this fall, but beginning in the spring, we're going to take a cohort of teachers who are going to do something very different. They're going to work across all content areas to focus on a unit all about diabetes prevention. So imagine what kind of instructional experiences that's going to bring to our students. And so we're starting with that. And then I talked a little bit about how this has been about a decade in the making. Two things when we started the School of Health Professions. Number one, we knew that we wanted to create experiences that were going to put students at the front of the line of opportunities. And here we are, yet again, putting them at the front of the line of opportunities with UTRGV. The second thing that we focused on was that whole 13th year concept, because they're with us from grades 8 through 12, but our goal is to prepare them adequately for the 13th year. And so as we look at the School of Health Professions and everything that they've done, they are no doubt going to have a rigorous and very engaging curriculum here at the campus. So then you're probably asking yourself a little bit about, so what does the front of the line of opportunities look like? It's the resume. It's looking at the experiences that our students are going to go through here at the School of Health Professions and helping them to build a resume that will be like no other high school student. And so today, as we look at the redefined experience, I'll let you know that we have been working in conjunction with UTRGV and several of the individuals of their executive team there. But we've come to a great place. And so here we are, redefining the HSHP experience. That's a big screen with a lot of words. So I'm going to talk very globally about this. I do want to take a second and just say a huge thank you to our core team that has been working on that. So if I could just have you all stand right quick, I just want the audience to recognize the work of our core team that's been here with us. Yes. So when we talk about redefining the experience and putting students at the front of the line of opportunities, it starts their first year with us. So as you look at what's on the screen there, I'm just going to point out some big picture items. So as an 8th or 9th grader, when they come to our campus at School of Health Professions, we immediately want to connect them to UTRGV. Why? Because when they're connected to a university, that becomes very real. The university, a lot of times, is this big, huge, scary place, and it's really not. But when we expose our students to the university from the very beginning, that just becomes like a second home for them. So beginning with the 8th grade year, it's about a UTRGV 101, coming and learning about all the possibilities that UTRGV has to offer, and not just medical school. Because as we've been working on looking at the true experiences here, it takes an entire army of health professionals to run an effective medical community. And so it's all pathways. So really nurturing the 6 pathways that we have here at the School of Health Professions. So then they jump into their sophomore year, big year, because they're getting ready for dual enrollment that will start their junior year. However, at the sophomore level, we're really wanting to have them do a deeper dive into the 6 pathways here at School of Health Professions and also understand what opportunities and pathways are available at UTRGV. And all of that is in preparation for the summer bridge opportunity between the sophomore and the junior year. It's during that summer bridge experience that they're going to have a first-hand look and experience at the university. There is nothing like an overnight university experience whenever you're a high school student to really understand, like, what is it going to feel like and what is it going to look like. So as they're jumping into their summer bridge program between the sophomore and the junior year, they're going to spend some time with UTRGV to look at the possibilities. What are the pathways and what are the offerings at the university? Because it's only then that our students can make an informed decision about what pathway in medicine they'd like to take. So it's really about bringing them through the university, working with our School of Health Professions, because you'll also notice their junior year, we want them to host a health fair for their entire community, to know what it's like and to feel what it's like to be a medical professional and give back to the community. Because at the end of the day, it's really about working with people and making a difference in people's lives as a health professional. And then there's that senior year. Their senior year, we're hoping that they have made a firm commitment, an informed decision about the pathway that they're interested in taking. Why? Because at that point, it's time to start looking at that 13th year. So as a junior, we're going to guide them, and as a senior, we're going to get ready for that transition to the 13th year. And you'll notice up there that we have something, a senior year medical symposium. So if you think a little bit about medical professionals, your favorite doctor, and I'm not going to ask you to point to your favorite doctor in the room, but we're just going to say, there's favorite doctor, yeah, everyone's looking around at Dr. Pettis. Then anyway, so your favorite doctor is the person that loves what they do, right? They've got this passion for what they do, and you can just feel it the second you walk into that waiting room. You know that that office is led by a physician that loves what they do. So the purpose of the Senior Symposium is for our students to be committed to something in medicine and to come and learn for an entire year, and then have our medical community come into the School of Health Professions so that as a senior, you're showing your passion. You're talking about the things you've learned about a particular passion in the medical profession. So that's what that Senior Year Symposium is all about. And remember, we talked about it's about building a resume. If we're truly going to put the students at the front of the line of opportunities, every one of those applicants is going to come in with a great GPA. They're going to have a lot of the same courses. What will be the difference and make the difference is the experience. And so I do want to commend UTRGV, because as we have worked on this entire experience, 100% commitment from UTRGV. And they have said, bring them to us, and together we're going to create this wonderful pipeline. And whether our students end up at UTRGV or anywhere else, they're going to take a very unique skill set with them. And they are going to be better prepared than their colleagues. So now we're going to hear a little bit from the university and talk about the experience from the university's perspective. And so if you'll allow me just a minute or so, I'm going to read off of my script because I don't want to miss a single thing with Dr. Bailey. So Dr. Bailey is no stranger to HCISD. He has been with us for years now, partnering. And so I am going to tell you a little bit about Dr. Bailey. Dr. Bailey has served as the president of UTRGV since it opened its doors in 2015. Seems like just yesterday, and here we are. During that time, UTRGV has experienced tremendous growth and is now one of only 9 public institutions in Texas to boast of an enrollment of over 30,000 students. UTRGV's footprint throughout the Valley has also greatly expanded since 2015, thanks to the School of Medicine, UT Health RGV, and the multiple partnerships the university has forged with cities, school districts, and businesses in the Valley. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Bailey.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to be here. You know, the things that we've done together are really remarkable. They are the envy of everybody in the Valley. I can't tell you how many people have come to me, have come to you. How do we do that? How do we do? This is a true partnership. And in a true partnership, you both get in, you're both equals, you just roll up your sleeves and go to work, and that's what I like what we've done here. The city has been supportive. Everybody in the area has been supportive. And so what happens is that you can achieve what has been achieved here. And this really brings it to another level. There are several things I like about this plan. First of all, it starts early. You know, this is a hard thing to say, but it's true. Your life is kind of determined in many ways by junior high school. So when I went to junior high school, I didn't know anybody gone to college. I didn't know what courses you should take. I didn't know that if I wanted to be an engineer one day, I needed to be able to take at least pre-calculus before I got out of high school. The courses you take in the 8th grade, from the 8th grade forward, are going to help determine this. So it starts early. Remember the chart that was up here. It starts in the 8th grade, and that's key. You start in time to do it right, to have the appropriate preparation. If I'd taken the right math, I might have really gone somewhere in life. You know, it just, I still look back with regret. And I mean, it's true. Now, I've been out of school many years, but I look back with regret at what I didn't do. We don't want any of our students to do that. And so that's very important. The second thing I like is it's experiential. You know, until you get in there and you see some nurses and doctors at work, you don't know whether that's really what you want to do. I mean, you read about it and you hear about it and you know people, but until you experience it yourself, you really don't know. And I can tell you, I know people in every health profession who realize, I should have taken a different pathway here. And so that's absolutely crucial. It has to be experiential. And that's where you get students on a college campus. You get them shadowing, doing, you know, practicums with people in the health professions. And you get them, that kind of thing helps you know exactly what you want to do. The other important thing about this whole project is that it's cumulative. One thing builds on another. If you go, take a closer look sometime at the chart that you don't have to put it up now. Yeah, no, I don't need to get into the details, but the board can look at it sometime. It's cumulative. One thing builds on another, and that's very important. Oftentimes, and we're guilty of this in higher education, you take a collective of courses that don't seem connected. I mean, we hope it comes out okay. This is cumulative. One thing builds on another. And I can't tell you how important that is. If we do this, if we start early, if we provide the right kind of experiences, and this is really all about experience, right? It's about what you experience. And then if it's cumulative, if one thing builds on another, we can help our students identify the right pathway for them. And in doing so, we can give them a leg up on everybody else. It's a great program. I think we are doing the right thing. The potential it has for helping students identify the right pathway and move forward in a really productive manner is tremendous. And so it's an honor for us to be part of it. We've been a great team of people working on this, but then every time we've worked with Harlingen, we've had great partners. So thank you so much. We look forward to it getting started. I appreciate your having me tonight. Thank you.
And we appreciate you, Dr. Bailey, probably more than you will ever know. So, great partnership. So you heard Dr. Bailey speak about it's the experiences. And on our campus, we have a wonderful practicum program where kids can go out and they've been able to help deliver babies and watch surgeries, hip replacements, and everything in between. And so imagine, I know there's a few like, I wonder what that looks like, but they do enjoy it, or they decide maybe not for me, right? But I will tell you that as we prepared for this evening, we had an opportunity to meet a gentleman by the name of Dr. Barrera, and I'm going to introduce him because Dr. Barrera is actually representing UTRGV. And as we talked a little bit about the experience, we had great conversation about what this can really do for the future of our students. So if you'll allow me just a second, I'm going to introduce Dr. Barrera. So this is Dr. Adrian Barrera. He was born and completed high school in Rio Grande City. Dr. Barrera attended UTSA. We'll just do that because they're conference champions. But anyway, so he attended UTSA where he studied biology. He worked in, I'm going to try to get this right, pharmacy and genetics together. Is that right, Dr. Barrera? More or less. And and he was also a high school chemistry teacher. Dr. Barrera attended medical school at UTRGV, part of the class of 2021, and is now training in psychiatry through UTRGV in Harlingen. And now to give us a little bit of a student's perspective, I ask that you join me in welcoming Dr. Barrera.
I find it ironic that I went I feel like Dr. Bailey covered many of the points I wanted to make about this program. I'm amazed, I'm excited, and I'm really thankful that we have something like this in the Valley for students that are interested in that type of field. I know when I was in high school, I didn't get that type of guidance. It was more so get good grades, go to college. And that's the only guidance I had. Once I made it to college, the guidance I had was your grades aren't good enough, so don't attempt it. And that was my counselor telling me that. So that discouraged me for 6 years, actually. So I spent 6 years since graduating college, and then I applied when I found out there was a medical school down here in the Valley. One reason I applied was the exposure. I was told that I'd be able to see patients within the first 2 years, and I was interested in that. I wanted to learn on the field. I didn't want to just learn from a book. And when I was there, I didn't know the questions I needed to ask. I was learning as I went, and it was pretty difficult for me. Many of my colleagues, they had either family or friends that were in the field, and they had guidance from them. But I did have a good set of counselors while at UTRGV. I'm very thankful for them. And they guided me throughout the whole process of going up to residency. And just being someone that taught in the Valley, that came from the Valley, I see the importance of, nurturing those interests while they're still early. I feel like so many people get discouraged and don't really achieve their dreams because they think they can't do it, or they don't know that they have that talent because nobody really saw it and helped them grow it. So to see a program like this, and then to partner up with UTRGV to get those mentors out in the community, to get that experience, whether it be you're going into medicine or some other healthcare field, whether it be nursing, PA, it doesn't matter. We need all those positions down here in the Valley. We're so underserved in everything. Of course, I'm going to be biased and say I'm swaying towards mental health, but as somebody that hopes to become an associate or assistant professor for UTRGV, as well as a community physician, I hope to be able to guide that interest and guide more students, more young people from the community into those fields and serve the community later on. So many of us leave. And that was my mentality as a 17-year-old. I didn't want to go to UTPA back then. I wanted to get out of the Valley. And when I was pushing 30, I realized the Valley has so many resources that I took for granted. And I was blessed to have the opportunity to study medicine here. And now I'm practicing medicine here. So I'm really hopeful for this program. I think a lot of good can come from it. And whether it be nurturing those talents and interests or finding out that you don't want to go into the field, it's a good thing either way. So I want to thank you all for inviting me to speak and giving me the opportunity to lend my opinion on this new program. Thank you.
You did a great job for not liking public speaking. You did just fine, Dr. Varela. You're high. Dr. Arnie's ready to give you a practicum now, a different kind of practicum. Anyway, so this evening is a huge celebration for us. And as I look at all of the faces of our faculty members, you all have done an incredible job with School of Health Professions. You have truly set us apart from the entire Valley, and what's going on here is magical. And this evening, we have an opportunity to enhance everything that goes on within this building. So this evening, we have talked a little bit about redefining the experience so that our high school students can make informed decisions about their 13th year. But there's another really important aspect, and we kind of talked a little bit about this in our other presentation. You always have to think about, so what comes before the 8th grade? And so I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Noyola to talk a little bit about how we are going to be working on redefining the experience for middle schoolers so that they too can make an informed decision about their high school experience. Dr. Noyola?
Thank you. And so, Dr. Bailey, in fact, you kind of beat us a little bit to the punch when you were talking about 8th grade and how important it is to start early and to start giving our students those experiences. And so as we back mapped and we backtracked to, we started at the university level, and now we have conversations about the high school level. But in our district, middle school is all about exploration and really trying everything out, find out what you like, what you love, so that starts to narrow the focus for our students. And so as we were having these conversations and we're doing this back map work, we said, well, why not start even earlier than 8th grade? why not give all of our students this opportunity to explore and really find what they love, so that by the time they hit that 8th grade, they start to narrow that focus. And so by the time they leave our high schools, they have had years and years of opportunity to really try it all and find what you love. Because ultimately our goal as a School of Health Professions is that we start to feed our medical profession and our medical community with the students that we're bringing forward. And so the better able we are to help students find where their passion is, what particular field, the better off I think our entire community is going to be for that. And so that work is coming, and so we are in the process of identifying a middle school that will feed into our School of Health Professions and start building those experiences even earlier for our students. So super excited at what's to come. I got to tell you that as a school district, one of the things that we take pride in is our innovation and our focus on finding the latest and the greatest. And we have phenomenal people. We saw design teams earlier that come together and really look for those innovative practices. But when we are able to bring all the parties to the table that impact our students, we're that much the better for it. And so we were super excited at the work that happened at Collegiate High and bringing our university and our school district together to create those front-of-the-line opportunities for students. But Dr. Bailey and your staff, I just got to thank you for continuing to work with Harlingen and expanding the opportunities that we're able to provide for our students. We've done great work at our School of Health Professions. You know, I can't wait to see what this will look like 6 years down the road when we're having another opportunity to continue to redefine, because we recognize that we can't stay status quo. We need to continue to meet the needs of our community, to meet the needs of our students. So just as a final word, just thank you all so much for the continued partnership. Every time we're able to bring our partners to the table, we're that much the better for it. So super excited at what the future holds, and thank you all so very much for the work that has happened thus far.
So with that, before we come and sign our commitment here, I will open it up to our board for comments and questions and conversation.
I'll go last. Anybody? Mr. Hymas.
Yeah, hear me fine? I'll keep it short. Dr. Bailey and UTRGV partners, I just want to thank you all. Also, as Dr. Niola said, you know, Dr. Barrera said something up there, and I was trying to think, you know, what questions or what can I say? And as Dr. Barrera spoke, he mentioned something. He said that as a student, you kind of grow up and you want to leave, and you don't realize how many resources that the Valley has to offer. And I think that the biggest resource that the Valley has to offer is our people. And I think that partnerships like this, you talk about being intentional with identifying talent, as we did the previous presentation, or getting our students at the front line of opportunity, as we say, to help make them a decision. I think that's something that we should all be very proud of. I remember in the 90s, there was, I'm assuming it was a marketing campaign by then UTP, the UTP athletic department. They would promote the Bronx basketball team, and they would always call it the Valley's team. You know, you guys are truly the Valley's university now, and we're more than honored and grateful to be your partners in all this. So I just wanted to thank you all. And our district officials too for what they do, and especially these folks back here, because they're the ones that are going to do a lot of the heavy lifting as we prepare these students to have a successful 13th year. So thank you to all the teachers and staff back there.
Dr. Ronnie?
Run down the line.
Yeah, sure.
I'm tremendously excited about this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Bailey, Dr. Arnie, Dr. Fish, Dr. Barrera, for the excitement that you bring to the table, and to the many leaders here at HCISD. Thank you so much. You know, it's, to me, one of the things that strikes me is that not only is this a great partnership, but it's a great partnership amongst two organizations that are so willing to change and adapt, right? It's learning organizations, two of them now coming together to make a difference. And so that is just you know, it's one of those moments in time where you go, you know, that doesn't happen all the time. And maybe you get lucky once and do something kind of cool once, but it's not just luck, is it? Because now we're on a pattern. And so it's really tremendous to see what's being done. The leaders, you know, you're the ones who set the vision and then make it happen. So it is really exciting. I also want to just recognize that, you know, it's one step to set the vision, and then it's the next steps to put it into action. And so, you know, that's the other part of what makes this work, right? We're listening to students, we're listening to teachers, we're listening to our community, and using that to inform the decisions. So I love it's data-driven, goal-oriented, all those key things. So I'm truly honored to be here and see this happening, and you know, I know that our whole board is just ready to support this as it moves forward. So thank you.
Do we not just have the best world? We're so excited to have this opportunity. I want to say, I'm sitting here thinking of Walt Disney again, and the dreams that he dreamed, and the years of work that it took to put it together, and to sustain the dream. And I think of how the Valley is flourishing at this moment. You know, a year ago at this time, we were focusing on suffering and survival. And today we're talking about growth and opportunity, and taking our students to the next step. It's an extraordinary moment in time, indeed. And my wish is to say thank you, and to express my appreciation to everyone in this room, certainly to all of our staff, certainly to our leadership, and certainly to UTRGV. You know, it's an entirely different world in education in the Valley now, because you are here. And your being here alone would not have been enough. But your being here to share and to grow together and to work with us is what is making the difference. And so absolutely, you've got the best partners in the world in the Harlingen CISD. And on that, I will take a stand. However, we too have the best partnership with you. You are extraordinary, and we thank you for that. You are changing the landscape of this valley that we all love. And some of us have been here for many generations. And indeed, we have all been through the experience that you described, Doctor. And we have all chosen to either stay here or to come back. And how blessed we feel today to be rewarded for that decision. So thank you very much for bringing that opportunity to us.
I wish I could go. Is this on? Yes. I wish I could go back to the 8th grade too, because there's a lot of things, a lot of classes. Go back entirely for 8th, 9th, 10th to take classes that I wish I'd taken, because who knows where we'd be today. I just want to reiterate what my colleagues have said. I mean, we are so grateful for you, Dr. Bailey, and your staff, and what you've done for our school district. You've put us at the forefront in the Valley, and I think in Texas. We're doing things here that people are coming from all over the state to watch us, to see what we're doing. And this program that Veronica and y'all have laid out tonight is just exceptional. It will provide so much opportunity for our students, and the future is so bright for everybody here in South Texas because of what you and your staff have done. And I'm so grateful that you all have chosen Harlingen School District to partner with on these programs. There's so many programs we've done now. I can't believe it's been 6 years that you've been here, and I can't believe that we've been here 8 years in this campus. It goes by so fast, but there's so much ahead of us to look forward to. And thank you so much for all you all have done and for partnering with us.
So just a couple comments from as I sit here, I'm reflecting on the last several years of our transformation. And I think, Dr. Bailey, you can speak firsthand about this as much as anyone, because You partnered with our superintendent for many years. You actually were so impressed by him, you hired Dr. Cavazos, and he's still going to do great work for our district and for the university in many other ways throughout Texas. But I'll say this, as amazing as Art is, and I would say this if he was here as well, he's incredible. What our current superintendent is doing is even more amazing, because if you think about it, the transformation is continuing, I would say even at a faster pace, with new ideas, right? Some of this, I'm sure they've talked about, and he didn't get a chance to, and now they're coming, but some are of her own and of her senior team, and from other leaders in the district, and the design teams that continue to do amazing work. But the impressive thing is that's happening at the same time of a massive intervention to catch up students from the learning gaps that were created because of the pandemic. So we have two simultaneous, equally heavy lifting things going on at the same time to try to impact students in our district. This transformation to make things better, to create better alignment with the workforce, with the universities, hired partners, to expose folks, to inspire them, to flip their switch, to get them to believe, because we all know that talent is universal, but opportunity is not. And as Dr. Barrera spoke, we just need to get kids exposed and convince them that they can do anything they want, and then just get out of their way, or ideally introduce them to a young person like Dr. Barrera, so they can see, wow, he looks like he could be my older brother. Maybe I could be a doctor someday, and that's how those amazing switches get flipped for those students. But I will say that I am reminded of the power of the teaching profession. Teachers make all professions possible. So I want to remind everybody sitting back here that even if you're not yourself an engineer or professor, college professor, or a doctor, or a dentist, or whatever, a nurse, sometimes all it takes is a teacher caring about a student so much and identifying, because this happened to me, Nolan, I think I figured out what you're going to do later in life. And then you get this young little boy who had a lot more hair at the time look up at you and say, "Really, sir?" And they say, "You're going to be a physician." And like that, you just transformed a life. And so that he wasn't a physician, he was a chemistry teacher, right? So the impact, the power of caring, of just identifying and just showing passion and commitment to other, and to just ask the right questions can really transform lives. So, and that I will say, we're talking here about HCISD and how proud we are of what we're doing here. But Dr. Bailey, I want to thank you, because I remember when we first met way back in the day when you were being interviewed, you going through that process, and I was just this doctor participating in this whole process, and I asked him a question, which I thought was like, I'm going to get him here, I'm going to get him here, I'm going to stump him, and I said, Dr. Bailey, help me understand, because you've run universities, Texas Tech and Alabama and this, that, impressive resume, you've been at UTSA, done amazing things. And I believe that you really want this job and you want to be here, but this is a different kind of job, sir. Can you help me understand? How is it? How are you going to do it across a whole region? This is a distributive campus model, and this kind of, have you thought about it? Because this is different than, and his answer was just amazing. And I'm gonna torture it, but it goes, because he would say a lot better than I, but essentially he says, this is an immense opportunity for the region, because it's a greater surface area so that we can embed in the community from both healthcare and education standpoint, and we can really uplift the health and the education of the whole community. So this is an advantage. This is a good thing. We just have to take advantage of that surface area and do the right things and make the right partnership. And I was just like, wow, like that's our guy. You know what I mean? And so that's why tonight, it's essentially what you're doing. He bragged on Harlingen, and I thank you for that. But and it's his story to tell, not mine certainly. But I know for a fact, because I hear it from other folks around the community, how he is talking to those superintendents. He is talking to those communities, embedding the university in other school districts, doing these kinds of partnerships that I think it's kind of cool when, what do they say about imitation? It's flattering, right? Yeah, so I mean, honestly, it's something that we take great pride in. But I just want to thank you for not only doing it here, Dr. Bailey, but having the having the courage and having the foresight to embed the educational opportunities in multiple different places, in multiple around the valley, not just Edinburgh and Brownsville. And that's what you're doing, much like you're doing with the healthcare side. I mean, you can't drive a couple miles and you see another health clinic. You see another opportunity for the university to impact the wellness of the community. So you're doing it on all fronts, and I know it's not just you. You have an amazing team. So thanks for doing the heavy lifting. It's not easy, but we're quickly seeing how you're bringing high value educational opportunities and healthcare opportunities across the region, and you're really transforming the delivery of healthcare and I think the delivery of education. Think about this: over 33,000 students right now. UTRGV is. It's incredible, the rapid growth, because of the amazing work that's going on in the collaboration and the partnerships with the schools and with the healthcare community and everything else. And so, and I will just lastly say this: the value is incredible. Right now, officially, it may go higher, and that's, again, to be determined. But $100,000, if you have a family with $100,000 of income or less, no tuition. And it's incredible when you think of the high quality education. Those kinds of opportunities are just amazing. So again, thank you, Dr. Bailey, for your leadership and for continuing to partner with our super talented superintendent and her senior team. So with that, I guess what are we going to do next? We're going to sign something?
So we will get ready to sign something. I want to do one last round of applause for all these champions in the back, our teachers.
Yeah. Yes.
The U.S. News thing came because of our teachers. So
Okay,
we
and
do. Go ahead.
before we do
Yes,
that,
sir.
I'm just going to, so that way we can adjourn the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to, Dr. Noel, let us know anything for the topics of future meetings?
Sure. So earlier we had one of our design teams present on our talent identification process, but we actually have some additional work that's happening with our design teams, and so we've been working on a principal residency for our principals or for our assistant principals aspiring to a principalship, as well as a teacher residency, and so that will be coming as a future presentation. And so the work here at School of Health Professions is not the only work that's happening that revolves around choice and opportunity and innovation. And so we also have our Early Childhood Academy that we will be opening in the fall. And so we'll be coming in with an update on that. As well as I mentioned earlier, some of the work that we are doing with middle school to support the work that's happening here at School of Health Professions. And so we will be coming forward with those topics in the next few months to share the progress on those.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. With that, we'll just go to our next session. The meeting is now adjourned.
Dr. Neal, if I could have you and the board in our front row here, come on over. Mrs. Garza and our